Hello and welcome to another free code session. My name is Jason Bach and I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to keep on trying to do this. The last episode was kind of a stumbling block, but we got, I think, back on track. And what we really need to do now is basically do all of this code here that you see commented out and essentially do it within the actual constructor of the mock. We have already checked that if it should not be null, and it is null, we throw the exception, but we're going to do all the initialization within the constructor. So that's where we need to move this stuff. Okay. And then we'll pull in what we need to as needed, no pun intended. So we come into here, and I think the place we want to do it is in the field setters. And as I said in the last episode, what we want to do is remove that and put in a writer.writeLine with one of these and then outdent. But before we do that, I don't want to forget this. So let's actually put this down here. Okay. So let's come back up here and say, let's outdent with that. So that is the constructor that we are building. And so now here, what we want to do is say, not just for the required initialization properties, but also for the indexers, the ones that are init, not required, because as I found out before, required initters are not a thing. Okay. So in this spot, what we want to do is, I think, come back up here and say, now this kind of stinks. Oh, we can remove those. That's fine. This kind of stinks because I've done this query before, or I've done this work before, but hopefully this should be pretty quick, because we are trying to say, hey, if it's required, and if it's not, then we fall out and we won't even do the contain can be seen thing is done last. So I think we do want to pull all of this in, not cut it, but bring it in here. Okay. And now when we say type to mock, we do need the actual type here. So we want to say I type symbol type to mock. Okay. And that would be actually what we do here. No. What did you just type to mock? There you go. And then can be seen by containing a, jeez, hold on. I'll get to you. Okay. Because I think I do bring it up here. Well, it would be in, we don't want the symbol, the assembly that the type is in. We want our, I can't remember what I keep where and when and how and why. But I do need this because I need to know if I can the compilation. Yes. That is in. So we do pass it into mock type builder, which should be passing it. Well, we do have it, but we don't pass it to, okay. So if we go to mock constructor builder, what we do want is the compilation. Okay. And so that should force this not there and not there, but here to say compilation. Okay. So now we have that. That's not the spot. I think we're done with that one. So let's put it over here. Come over here. We have the compilation. We now need to compilation. Thank you. Writing name and context, type to mock. You should have type compilation. And then we bring those down here like that. Except that's the wrong order for some reason. because the naming context has to be over here because that's the way I defined it. And because I defined it that way, that would mean I have to do it correctly. Okay, so now we're back to this point where we're going to get all the required init properties. We've now set all the handlers the way we've done it before. That should all be fine. Now we just want to handle the init properties, and we also want to handle the indexers. So let's do the init properties first. The init properties should just be like this dot name equals constructor properties dot name. And the variable naming context, right. We need to put in the actual constructor properties there. Let's just assume it's there for now. And so what we want to do is say for all the required init properties, and we don't care what order these are coming in for each var in. No, you had it right. I say writer.writeLine, and this would be this dot, and then the name of the property is equal to, and then this is where we need to say the constructor properties name dot the name of it with a semi, and then there. Okay, so this is the name. This is going to break a whole bunch of stuff when I finally get to looking at code that I've already produced. And then we need to say at, this is naming context, where we're going to say constructor properties, like that. Okay, and then this is also the name because they're the exact same thing. So this, that, okay, that's good. Now we need to do the, except this was assuming some stuff. Like here I said the required in property name because that was on the object. We're now saying constructor properties, required init property name, but the property assignment. And that's what this was. And that all comes through. So we just need to say here that, because we're either going to say null forgiving or not. Okay, so now I think we've done this. We got that in place. Now what we need to do is say what we are doing up in, hold on. Now we need to basically do this block of code. And we want to do it as a for. For var I is equal to 0, I less than, because these will be exactly the same, I++. Somebody should make a language called I++, because why not? Var required init, index, init, indexer. Why am I calling it a Yeah, I just realized that for indexers, there is no such thing as a is required. And so we can come back up here and just take one little snippet off because we don't need this. Good. So we can just say, probably I'm going to want to rename init indexers. And then this can just be init indexer is equal to that at I. And of course, because reasons, var enumerable type. I'm not even sure if I need this, but why not? Because reasons, okay. So now what I want is something that looks like this, okay? And so I'm going to do writer.writeLines. Okay, and it's going to look something like that. Except this, yeah, this is funny because, well, for some version of funny, because we need to get one with the key type, which in the first case is the fully qualified name plus the name. Then, or do you? Can you just, like, dang it, I always do that wrong. I think this whole thing came from this example. Come on. This, where I could say, well, run, fine. And that's going to bark because reasons. It's going to say console. No, I do have those. Okay, that's right. And it does run. Okay, so here's the thing. If I come down the mock, can I just say for each var var? No. Oh my God. Why? Var b. Stop it. Stop it. Oh my God. Yeesh. Okay, well, that's good. I got SharpLab. You're just... Why did you just do that? Why are you bouncing around so much? VAR. Oh my God. VA. Ha. Oh boy. Okay, so that's actually good though, because this means that we just need to like enumerate over the names. The only time that we need to actually get the type names is here. And so what we can do, and in both these cases, you still have to use the brackets with the things there, which is good. Okay, so with a lot of rambling, what that meant is that the enumerable types that we want are just the fully, oh, well, yeah, because that's what we're going to, that's what we're going to put in here. The rest of it are just going to be the names of the of the indexer names. Okay. So we don't have to do this. We can say, well, we do have to determine if this is a tuple type or not. We could say var for each type and then say basically this, except here we're going to use just, we're going to say var name. So var, and then we come into here, go and name. That's it. Yeah. Otherwise here, we're going to want to say that. Except we want this to be a string in and of itself, right? Like that. Because that's totally wrong. Why am I blanking on this? Why am I being... I think what I need to do then is put one here. Oh, wait. Yeah, this is where it's getting tricky. Okay. So we wanted that, and then we want that, and then that goes there. And then I think that. No. This is going with that. So we want to do that and then a that. There. Okay. Sorry. It's not pretty, but it works. Okay. So we're going to say var A, var B, var C, or we're just going to, and that will be a tuple type of that. Okay. So then here, what we can say is we can say for each type, and then down here, we can say this is going to be replaced by for each type. And now here, we want to say global, system collections generic dot IEnumerable of, and now this thing is the cast type. Well, not the, you know what I mean. Enumerable type. This has to be at, and then this is naming context of that. Okay. And now enumerable types for each types, and now we need parameter names. Except this is simpler. Because what we can do here is say for the init indexer, because it's going to be the same as that, we can say init indexer, except we're going to do it twice. So let's say, yeesh, this is getting ugly. var indexer names is equal to, except we don't have to switch, because we can just say init indexers dot select, and we do that, and then we say what we want is a string dot join again of that, but what we're joining on is the name. Yes. And then this would be to array because of reasons. Var indexer name is equal to indexer names of I. And then down here, we need to stick in indexer name. And my phone is like going absolutely bonkers right now. Indexer name, and that's it. We're finally done. Ship it, right? Ship it. So what have we done? We've now, there's something, I knew I was going to forget this. There was something that just went through my head, and that is in the constructor builder itself, because we are not passing in. We need var context parameters. Oh my God. Which means, oh brother. You know what? Let's just do this up here. Okay. And then we're going to say var context parameter. I don't have a good name for this. Okay. Which, you don't know, type to mock dot type. Yes. So now what we want to say here is if length is equal to 0, then we're going to do something like string.empty, except that's not what we're going to do. And then we're going to do string.empty, which is not what we're going to do either. But what we are going to do is say this whole thing. That's what happens when you don't have any. Okay. Now, if you do, you can just say, I believe it's okay at this point just to say, because if it's length of 0, then we need to do that. Otherwise, what we need to join is that. Okay, so now that gets that in there. But what happens if these weren't required? Like here, I said has required properties. And what that trickles down into, unfortunately, is has required properties, has required properties. Because we use that to say, do we put a question mark on it or not? Because if none of them were required, we didn't, You're not forced to do this. Right? Because in this case, what we're doing now is we're just simply passing this along to rock in some parameters, which now contains constructor properties. It's properties. It's properties. It's properties. Am I calling it parameters? Yes, it's properties. Constructor properties. Please, dear God. Yes, properties, 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 properties. And so close. And then from here, we can say, does it actually have any? Var has required properties is equal to this dot any where is required. There. Okay, so now we basically, as soon as you have one, then fine. Now, what does this mean? If I came back here, we use that to determine if it doesn't have required properties, then it can be a question mark. Okay? So that's saying if it is. Okay. Because you may have passed us in one that isn't. Now we don't need to do this here again because we've already done that. But we need to pass in an array of iProperty symbol, Jesus. iProperty symbol. No. Yeah, iProperty symbol. Property symbol. Thank you. Well, that's what we call them here. And then bool as required properties. Okay, and then we'll come back to that in a moment. So we fixed that all up. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, what we want to do is say only if length is greater than 0, because otherwise we don't have to do any of this. And then the other thing we need to add in here is to say, yes, if has required properties. If it doesn't have required properties, that means it could be null. So then we're going to say writer.writeLine with a writer.indent plus plus with a writer.writeLine that. And then we need to reverse it down here after we do all this to basically say that, except that's a minus minus, so we get it back down to the enclosing scope. And then we need to say here, if, and this is where we need the naming context. Constructor properties. If that is not null. So if we don't have required properties, that means we may have been allowing you to pass in a null. And if that's true, then we only need to check to see if you did, because then if you didn't, if it's required, we're just going to assume that you had to pass something in. And if that's null, then that's on us. So I'm at time pretty much for this episode. One more episode to basically go through all this now and see, does it build? Does it test? Can we write integration tests? And then hopefully close this one out. So thank you all for watching. Leave comments and questions below. See you in the next episode.